We live in this absolutely amazing country. Aside from having invented the wine cask, Australia was one of the founding members of the United Nations. We have 19 World Heritage listed sites. We live in a country where platypus live, where 80% of our native fauna and flora is only found in this country. And did you know the venom of a platypus is large enough to kill a little dog? We have over 1 million camels in this country, and we actually export to the Middle East. Our dingo fence is longer than the Great Wall of China. The Australian Alps get more snow than the Swiss Alps. And aside from having the cleanest air anywhere in the world, Tasmania has the clearest of all in Australia. The Great Ocean Road is the longest war memorial in the world. We have the longest golf course, which is 850 miles long. Did you know that wombats deposit square poos? And did you know that an Australian man once tried to sell New Zealand on eBay with a starting price of 1 cent? One wonders whether he got any bids. We are the only continent in the world without an active volcano. Brisbane every year hosts the illustrious World Championship cockroach racing. I mean, that sounds like an amazing event. We invented the first tank in 1911, the plastic spectacles in 1874. We invented the underwater torpedo, the ultrasound scanner. In 1838, the first prepaid postage stamp. We invented the flight recorder, the technology behind Wi-Fi, cochlear implants, pacemakers. We invented the medical application of penicillin. We were the first to explore the Arctic and Antarctic by air. We invented the world's first reading machine for the blind, the world's first feature-length film in 1906, that was us, which was about Ned Kelly. The dual flush toilet, so you can't say we're not contributing to the climate crisis. And the baby safety capsule in 1986. We also invented the technology behind Google Maps, which is the most downloaded app anywhere in the world. Our country shield is the kangaroo and the emu, which is being that they both can't walk backwards, is to some say the reason why we are such a forward-thinking country. An amazing place where people who had nothing, who were discarded from the world, have come here and built a country based on individuality, on being an individual, being anybody you want to be, as long as it's an Australian with values of hard work gaining rewards, of problem solving, of getting out there, seeing outside the box and doing the things as a little country. And yet that country that I grew up in and love has become a place that has become dire. It's a place where our young people have not been dealt into the game of life. They will never own a home, and unlikely the way it's going to even be able to rent. They are incredibly angry. From university being a free thing, it's now quite expensive. The jobs and innovation in this country and productivity has gone to just about zero. Companies are falling over at a mass rate, and no government seems to be listening to us. It seems that the social contract behind our consent in allowing a government to reign has been horrifically broken. Hello, I'm Claire Louise McCracken, and welcome to my podcast, The Butterfly Effect. If, like me, you've been enduring and struggling in this world and thinking to yourself, sod this for a game of soldiers, then you are in the right place. Here we discuss a range of issues that affect everyday people and everyday lives. We discuss issues that touch on disability, the NDIS, aged care, healthcare, social care, and the sheer frustrations of the world we now live in. Every person and every voice, including yours, has the power to create seismic change. If you are interested in a no-nonsense approach to the issues that face all of us, welcome. Please like and subscribe. That simple act can become the powerful force where we the few will become we the many, no matter who or where you are. Australia today has an overinflated public service. Every department seems to be siloed, and none of them seem to talk to each other. It's grossly inefficient. It lacks in areas of competence, and it lacks in a vision for the future. Most of all, our governments seem to be oblivious to the struggles of the average Australian person. We have a housing market now that is so unobtainable that it has disenfranchised and removed all hope for the next generation. This next generation will be worse off than the last generation. And at the same time, that generation, the great generation and the boomers, have been left to suffer in poor aged care facilities. And an aged care reform that basically surmounted in charging them more money, family life has become a juggle. In amongst a gig economy where kids are left abandoned, is it any wonder that global development delay is increasing at such a large rate? Aged care is no more than an unregulated fund management hustle with aged care on the side. What's better than gambling with other people's money with no risk? The government backs and guarantees those RAD payments that people have to make in order to receive aged care, so that if that money's lost for any reason, be it even their own negligence, the government has guaranteed somewhere just under $40 billion. Palliative care, despite knowing that we've got a silver tsunami coming, is almost non-existent. It seems that the government hasn't had a committee to even understand that people will be dying and hasn't considered that important step in life in dying and the consequences for the families around them. People that aren't able to take care of their elderly parents, social care and disability is so out of control that we're not looking at any KPIs or goals or outcomes, and people focus on whether or not they got that fancy chair, that trampoline, that holiday, and we're not looking at any outcomes in that person's life. The problem with equalising outcomes is it doesn't always equalise opportunity. And if we don't equalise opportunity, then those outcomes will always be forced and have to be funded. For we need to have regulation where it's needed, but not so it strangles business and innovation and productivity, and what kind of country and vision for the country needs to be something that an incoming government needs to have sight of. Primary industry seems to have gone from being the backbone of the country to barely being the coccyx. Primary industry must come back to the forefront of who we are and what we do, and we have to consider what it is we offer to this world, be it that our carbon footprint is only a few % in the world. It seems crazy to muzzle the entire economy when we could be facilitating and researching into new forms of energy that can affect the rest of the world. We're not considering in how we build our communities that they are community focused and not just dormitory towns, that they allow for community and that they allow for people to live together and support each other and to build a community together. We aren't allowing for how we build to consider the climate. Much of climate change has been due to habitat destruction, and yet these are things we are not discussing, nor are we discussing at any great lengths anything about conservation. It's hard to believe that the koala, so loved, is an endangered species. that we are failing to look after the land on which we stand. There are things that we need to do in this overinflating world that's just been gaining momentum since the Second World War. Financially, we've needed to restructure for quite some time. We needed to restructure in the early part of last century. We needed to restructure after the First World War, the Great Depression, the Second World War. We needed to restructure when we were considering disengaging from the gold standard. We needed to restructure many times, and yet we failed to do it. So it has come to a point where we could say, okay, well, it's entirely a do-over and it's a terrible thing, or this is a great opportunity. All we need is the imagination to be able to foresee that vision and seize it. And yet we wait. There are certain things that I think would help Australia. I think tax brackets need to be adjusted. We need to consider whether young people, like with HECS debt, we don't charge them perhaps until a certain tax bracket. Maybe they shouldn't pay any tax until a certain level to help enable them into a home. A home is a dwelling that is your own home. Should have no tax, no stamp duty, no land tax, no capital gains tax attached to it, but we should be not funding negative gearing for people to use housing as a tax dodge or a lazy investment. We shouldn't be allowing banks to be lazy and to invest so heavily in mortgages. We should be encouraging them actively to invest in business and innovation and take risks, rather than continue to overinflate our real estate market. We have 4 of the biggest banks in the world, and yet we're tiny. When you consider California as the size of the European economy and then consider how little Australia is, it's amazing that we have these massive banks. And it's because we've sold away our Australian dream. It used to be that the government bank used to fund people's mortgages. And this is a fairer, more equitable way that we can maintain an interest rate for the life of the mortgage. We can get people into mortgages and we can get them away from the bank owning their house for the rest of their lives and having to potentially will that mortgage on to the next generation. We need to change the way that mortgages work. And I think the best way to do this is through government-funded mortgages and a government bank, forcing the other banks to invest in business and commercial enterprises. We can't subsidise aged care with housing. We need to think of other things, like perhaps a financial instrument that somebody invests in that allows those people, when they become of age, that they need care in the home, there's a payout and they can fund it themselves, or they can afford to pay their family to come and look after them, thus reinvigorating family and community and strengthening our Australian community. If we're going to have all of these international students come here, then I think it's fair to say that perhaps our own students here shouldn't have to pay for university. But university is useless if there's nowhere where you can use your degree. If everywhere you try, never mind the tall poppy syndrome, we're in a position where the poppy ain't growing at all. And all they're doing is watering the weeds. We need to ensure that there's the industry to support university education. The amount of different business clubs that I've been to, and in Adelaide it's the same group of men, it's always the same people. Access to government is almost impossible because they like to deal with people they know. So it makes it really difficult for people with new ideas to confront the government with these ideas and have them invested in. We basically aren't allowed to have new ideas. We basically rehash old ideas and, slap a bit of lipstick on it and call it a new one. Where has our innovation gone? Well, it's fallen in nepotism, hasn't it? I mean, the Briggs report did highlight that there were a few issues. I mean, and both governments do it. I've been told personally that the government only likes to deal with people you know, people that they know. We need to get rid of the bloody lobbyists, right? Government-funded representative organisations and peak bodies that have become activists that aren't representing the people at large at all. We could be developing solutions. We need our own alternative to the Paris Agreement. It's one thing to say we don't want the Paris Agreement or we'll pay lip service to it, but we need our own Australian climate change policy where we talk about, well, let's be sensible here. What can we do? We can invest in finding a form of energy that is cheap, efficient and doable now. In the meantime, we should be considering nuclear. We should be making sure that all homes are self-sufficient, not robbing the batteries back into the grid and then charging as a premium for the energy that we've made ourselves, or with the asbestos windmills and tearing up agricultural land to do it. It's all just a shift of wealth from the oil barons to the freaking energy barons. It's not anything that's going to help anybody. There's no science behind doing it other than, oh, you know, the only solution, or we will all die and your children will live in dire circumstances and suffer as if we do solar and wind. Well, that's just not the case. For this next technological revolution, it's the same as any other. If you're not the forefront of that technology, then you're the third world country. We need to catch up, and so we need to race in this next thing. We need to race as far as AI is concerned and make sure that our schools are educating people to the standard. And then some education has needed an overhaul for quite some time. There needs to be transparency, and we need to consider our relationship with the United Nations and the World Economic Forum and its impact on us. How many of our decisions is it driving? And so those decisions reflect the best interests of the Australian people. We need to make sure they do. I think we need to maintain Australia Day as it is. And we need to invite all people and Indigenous people to come and join us as Australians. This is one day where it demonstrates how, despite all of the challenges, we are now together. I think there's a lot of victimhood, and I think it's a scapegoat to doing the practical things that can do better things for Australia. And I think there needs to be greater accountability for some of those schemes that fund some of those groups, because we're not getting the outcomes that the public would have intended. I think we need to move away from income tax as being the sole income for the government. There's only so much blood you can get out of a stone. And it's simply not fair anymore when you consider it. It can take 20 people to fund one NDIS participant. You have to consider for some of them for the lifetime that investment of $50 to $100 million. It's not all of them, it's very few of them, but nonetheless it is so. And then ask yourself, is there a better way of doing this? How do we do this so it's sustainable? We need to take back control from the technocrats, the unelected public servants who are making decisions that we would assume are made by ministers. We need to be able to influence those things. It can't all be done behind closed doors, because those closed doors, for a start, don't always hire the best people for the job. And they don't talk to each other. And so there's a lot of overlap of resources. We really, I wouldn't say that we do a doge, but we need to do some form of it to make sure that we have some form of efficiency. Where we needed regulations, where places like the NDIS, can you believe for a minute that there are unregulated providers, or that we spent $1 billion in the Royal Commission into disability and then the review of the NDIS? I need to have a few people turn around and say, no, we don't want support workers to be trained. because we want to be able to control them and we don't want them telling us what to do. I think that this is unreasonable when it's government money, and from a safeguarding point of view, there's no better safeguarding than having staff that are competent. And there's no better way of getting bang for your buck if that person can do more than being a domestic servant. In other countries, it's a university degree to become a social care practitioner, where in this country, you're nothing, and so you can't expect anything from it. And yet we've demedicalised to the point that, it's actually become unsafe for people because we're actually not discussing the elephant in the room. We need to be considering other forms of income in this country, like a mining rental tax, because you cannot tax yourself to prosperity. There needs to be some kind of sovereign wealth fund where those resources belong to Australians and we benefit from it. And I said we need to get nuclear going absolutely immediately. We do not wish to be behind technologically. This is incredibly dangerous and we cannot do the research. We cannot have the energy to do AI or to do any of these other scientific things if we don't have the energy. We live in a country where at schools we've got children with litter boxes because they identify as a cat. Education needs to be education and parents need to be sovereign. I'm not into sovereign citizenship in any way, shape or form, but I believe in the government, and I do. And I believe that we are the government and it's up to us. And we need to consider some of these things and we need to become more involved. And there needs to be an avenue for us to become more involved, more of a direct democracy. Is it any wonder that we have such high numbers of global development delay when we have a gig economy? Okay, people have to change their jobs, but to be so highly casualised and working in such poor conditions is not good enough. And we need to think about ensuring that parents and family members are able to have the time to parent their children. I know that as a woman, the only reason women were encouraged to work was because inflation got to the point that it took two incomes. Other than that, we'd still be strapped to an apron. But now, I wanted equality. We didn't want to become men. Well, I don't mean that in the literal sense. I mean that as we didn't want to have to work like them and be tied to it, and nor do men. They want to be fathers and have a life as well. Now, that's progression. I mean, we hardly aren't talking about diversity and equality when it's the same group of people before government getting all the favours and contracts and times with ministers. It has cost me a fortune over the years to go to events in order to get in front of a minister. Otherwise you get the mirror, I'll look into it. Or you'll get the, doesn't have the time in the diary at the moment. We're making some silly decisions. And the best move for social media was teach resilience, develop better platforms. What a fantastic opportunity that would have been. Develop platforms that solve the problems. De-seat those big social media providers and develop something that's better for all the money that's gone into it in lighting up the city green and gold, and going on all these trips and everything. Imagine what we could have done positive to our kids' lives, not forgetting that if mental health is such an issue, one would have expected that money might have been put into our mental health system, which it has not. We need to stop all the spin doctor bullshit because it doesn't matter which politician comes out with their logo, whatever colour they are, blue or green or orange or red, as soon as they talk, it's the same rhetoric, the same tone, the same posture, the same words. And we all just glaze out and we go, okay, what are you selling? Yeah, I'll have a bit of that, but all we're doing is electing our dictators. because once they get in there, they do whatever the hell they like. We need to focus on our primary industry again, and we need to understand that without hope, our children are becoming communist in the worst possible way. Without honest discussion, we are being held to ransom. In my industry, in disability, providers are falling over like flies, and there are some serious issues which nobody is prepared to discuss because people are frightened. They're frightened of being cancelled. And without discussion, we can't look after anybody. Without honest discussion, we are being held to ransom by equalising outcomes. We're ignoring merit, and you can't equalise status without there being merit. We need to break the nepotism cycle, the cronyism, and open government doors because it's killing every industry that we have. Switzerland's known for its chocolates and its clocks and its banking. America is known for making cars and technology and building stuff and military, I suppose. What are we going to be known for? Is it innovation, technology, new forms of energy, or being consumers? Because at the moment, all we do is sell Chinese shit to each other. We're not doing anything. We're known for having invented the Hills hoist. Fantastic. Hills went bust years ago. With all the identity politics, one could say, well, what's the same about these different groups? Because I see they're all the same. They're all disgruntled. They're all lost. They're all lost hope because of a lack of leadership and a lack of direction. And we need to be unapologetically Australian. All of us on the same team, advancing Australia into a future that we are all proud of. Primary industry, mining, technology, space technology, innovation, a place where people want to bring their ideas. What if we did like an island and we cut corporate tax and said to companies, come here. We're a Western country, safe country, come here. There are things that we could do to increase our country's income beyond squeezing the fuck out of people. We are free, and we need for anyone who comes here that they are free too. Whatever we need to enshrine and mark this time and country's history with an Australian human rights or an American-esque constitution that enshrines free speech, that enshrines our Australianism, that enshrines our unapologetic Australianism, so that we can literally advance Australia. So we are never again need to fear losing who we are. A place where you can work hard and you will be rewarded, where everyone expects to own their own home, where you can develop your ideas to grow into new industries, where freedom of speech is protected, where the truth can be real and not subjective, where there's a place to go, the media, where the government always speaks the truth, doesn't spin shit or twist figures, but just speaks the bloody truth. Because we're sick of all of that shit, where people aren't afraid to speak their minds. That's what this country should be, because that's what we have been known for, where anyone has access, has the right to access, and can contribute freely to government. A safe place, an innovative place, a place of possibilities, a young country finally past her adolescence, that is forever enshrined for what we have always been known for, a fair go, a place where we can be unapologetically Australian. Well, that's me for today. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to contribute to the discussion, and I always reply to as many people as I can. If you'd like to contact me, please do so on 1800 422 or email at www.canda.group. I'm also on Facebook at Carers and Advocates and Instagram at Carers and Advocates, or you can check out our website at canda.group. You can also find me on LinkedIn. If you feel you have a story to expose, please feel free to contact me. Remember, it takes every single drop to make an ocean, so please drop a like and subscribe. It may well be that our individual actions are only small, but when we are brave enough to stand apart from the madness, we can become a force together. We are all in this together. Speak truth, speak from the heart, be true to yourself, and be kind to each other.
It's where it all started, it's where you'll find me, and I just wanna let you know